Okay, chapter 11 and the last video, video 4, and it's going to be a short one about fishing. And I decided to, because of time, video 3 was almost at 15 minutes, and I really wanted to talk a little bit more about fishing. Your book doesn't go into fishing as much as it probably should be. There's a great movie I wish I could show you. If we have time, maybe I'll show you a clip or two, called End of the Line. The fact is we are overfishing our oceans. We have been for a very, very, very long time, and we've known it. And we basically fish out one fish until it's pretty much gone, and then we just move to a different species of fish. We are currently out fishing tuna. That's okay. There's a bunch of different types of tuna. We just move on to the next type of tuna and go after that. 90% or more of our fish species out there, fish populations are declining. They're going to collapse. We have a huge problem. And of course we compete with the larger predators, so as we take a lot of the fish, their populations are decreasing as well. It's quite a scary thing. Sorry, I'm yawning. It's early in the morning. Okay, bycatch are things you catch unintentionally. So if you're catching with big nets that you're dragging through the water, you're not going to just catch the fish you want. You're going to catch other fish. You're going to catch potentially whales and sea turtles and all kinds of stuff. Most of those animals die. And then when we pull up our catch, we keep what we want and we basically just chuck all those dead bodies back into the ocean, which is highly scary. A lot of ocean and island communities rely on the ocean for their source of protein for those fish, because there is no room on their land to grow or raise cattle and chickens and stuff like that. So countries like Japan, some of your other island countries, Madagascar and stuff, they're going to highly rely, in the Philippines and all those kind of islands in the Asian Sea, they highly rely on fish. And if you are just pulling out fish for yourself, then you're fine. But when we are pulling out so much fish and we're catching it so rapidly and have lots and lots of bycatch that we are throwing back and killing, that's a problem. And again, remember I've told you, we eat way too much protein. A lot less, some of these countries probably don't, but here in the United States we eat a lot more protein than we really need to. So, okay. So fish production or fish catching globally has always been going up, depending on the year. We don't actually know how much is taken because a lot of it's taken in international water and it's not reported, so who knows. Aquaculture is when we raise fish. Here in the United States we have, and even here in Florida, we do quite a bit of aquaculture. Here in the state of Florida we do tilapia, bass, shrimp as agriculture, aquaculture. We raise them in tanks or ponds, that kind of thing. There's a lot of area over in Tampa that is aquaculture. Along the coast now we do a lot of aquaculture in nature for clams and stuff. You can actually get a section, an area, and you put little clams in a bag and you go and tack them to the ocean floor and let them stay there a few years, and then you go collect them and you have a bag full of clams, kind of thing. This is a picture of a fish pen out in nature, in a river, along a coastline, and there's fish in those, and they have to feed them. The only problem with this is that you get a high concentration of waste coming from those fish. There's quite a few fish. They're quite packed in. They get food, any of the food waste, and of course their fish waste is going to end up in that water. So you have potentially a huge introduction of waste on a pretty continuous basis in a small area. Where those fish in nature would be much more spread out, you wouldn't get that high cost of waste. There's lots of things we're looking at, but this is going to, of course, raise the price of fish potentially, and you have to ask what we're feeding those fish. It's kind of scary because sometimes we've actually started feeding fish grain, and fish are definitely not supposed to be eating corn. But a lot of times with these fish, what we're feeding them is other fish. So rather than catching them in the wild because they don't exist anymore, we go and catch smaller fish, ground them up and make fish meal and feed it to these fish. So we're still over harvesting the ocean of other fish to feed our captive fish. So it's quite an issue. You should be aware of the ways in which we do try to catch fish. You can do it, of course, with line, a good old fishing rod, but that's not a very efficient method. A lot of times there's basically three big things we do. You can have a net. You drag a huge net, often called like an otter trawl, under the water. And some of these nets are so large because they're off these huge ships that they literally could catch 10 747s in them. That's how big they are. And they catch a lot of fish, but they also catch a lot of bycatch, a lot of fish they didn't want to fish. So huge loss there, kind of thing. So that's one way we fish. Another way is called a long line. It's a line of like monofilament fishing line kind of thing, a big fishing line that's potentially a mile long or longer. There's buoys on each end, and every 10 feet or so there's another line with a hook on it, and we bait those hooks. So if you have, there's 5,280 feet in a mile, so you have this line that's that long, and every 10 feet, 5 to 10 feet, there's a hook. You're talking over 52 hooks on this line. And what they do is they bait them, and they usually do this for the larger things like swordfish and all. And they bait them, and they set them loose, and then they leave them. They're buoy marked. They have a marker on them kind of thing, so that they can locate them, a beacon. And they leave them for a few days or a week or so, and then they come back and they harvest whatever's on there, because chances are whatever's on there has stayed alive for the most part. The only thing is, again, they catch whatever. So you might be looking for swordfish, but if a shark bites it and gets hooked up, or a sea turtle, or a dolphin or something, you're potentially harming all those animals as well. The other thing is called a drift net, and these are actually being outlawed left and right because we know they are horribly bad. A drift net is exactly like that, what it is. It's a net, a very fine monofilament net that is left to drift in the ocean. What it is, and again, it can be, a mile in length. It can be large, very large. And what they do is they release it. It has a buoy on it or a marker so that they can find it again, a beacon, or it's supposed to. And they leave it. And they leave it out there for a while to catch whatever it catches. And again, it catches anything. Sea turtles, sea lions, dolphins, fish, sharks, whatever. They get tangled up in it, and then they come back and collect it and, take what they want kind of thing. But again, it kills a lot of bycatch in it. And what we have found, or what researchers and people out in the ocean have found, is that there's occasion where the buoys stop working or the markers stop working, and they cannot find their nets again. And so there's these large nets that are literally drifting around the ocean just continuously. And what happens is the organisms that are in the net start to decay and break down, which actually attracts other predators to come eat them. So seabirds dive in thinking they're going to get an easy meal, and they get tangled up in the netting and die. Or a shark or larger fish comes in for the easy meal, and they get tied up. So it's a perpetual killing machine. One ship was out in the North Atlantic, a research ship, and found about a half a mile of drift net. And it was so full of dead animals and animals that it was so heavy they literally could not drag it aboard their ship to get it out of the water kind of thing. That's how heavy it was. There was just nothing they could do. They couldn't get it out because it was so full of dead material and dead organisms. And that's just incredibly sad. Unfortunately, a lot of our fishing practices and stuff don't come to light very often. They should, a lot more than they do. But it is a huge concern. In our Gulf, we have a huge grouper fishing. We like grouper. Grouper's a very nice meat. I have to admit, I like grouper. I very, very seldom eat grouper, maybe once every 5 years, because I know we are destroying the grouper populations. excuse me. There's several species of grouper out there. Excuse me again. And we are fishing our way through the grouper. We're down to red grouper now because we've literally fished all the other groupers, just too small of populations. So we move on. And our fishermen in the Gulf don't like it, but it's the only way to actually sustain grouper. Otherwise, we would literally feed them or hunt them into extinction. Okay, well, that is chapter 11. If you have any questions, make sure you ask them in class. I hope you guys have having a great time. And we are moving on. Thank you. Bye.